Hey guys, it's Brian here with BTK Properties, Tennessee Dream Home. We are about to get started. So today we're going to be discussing several ways to make money in real estate investing. There's going to be three ways. One where you need about $100,000 to begin, the other where you need about $15,000 to $20,000 to begin, and the other where you need zero to begin. Before I keep moving forward, can somebody just throw in the chat whether you can hear me and you also see my presentation? Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Adam. I appreciate that. All right, guys, so we are going to first start off with something that's near and dear to my heart. Before I got into real estate, I think many of you guys know that I was a police officer in Spring Hill in Columbia. I used to work with a bunch of great guys, and actually we have one of them with us on the phone. I'm going to try to unmute him here in just a second. But it's Sergeant Alexander with the Spring Hill Police Department. He has started an organization called the Spring Hill Knights Foundation, and we're going to give him an opportunity to say a few things about it, and then we'll resume with the presentation. So Sergeant Alexander, give me just a second. I'll get you unmuted. Sergeant Alexander, here you go. You should be unmuted. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fantastic. So, Sergeant Alexander, if you would tell us a little bit about the Spring Hill Knights Foundation.
Yes, sir. So the Spring Hill Knights Foundation is an organization that supports first responders. That includes police, firefighter, emergency medical services, dispatchers, all those different people that serve us day in and day out. So what we try to do is help out with funds for trainings, for equipment needs, to help build up peer support organizations for them. We've also paid for myself and a couple others to go and become instructors in a couple of different suicide intervention courses that we teach in our local community. But the biggest thing is we're building a network and the ability to have funds there to help support these first responders so that if they're more healthy and if they're taken care of, then they can provide a better service for the community. A couple of the big projects for this year is we've got 7 line of duty desks just for police alone in Tennessee that'll be added onto the wall in DC this year. So we're going to send a team up there with a vehicle to support at least one of those families this year. And if we can, we're going to try to support 2 of them just to be there to get them where they need to go. And then another big project, we're looking to do a camp for surviving children this year with line of duty desks, both police, fire, EMS, all of those up at Deer Run. So we've been talking to the camp about trying to do that. So there's just a few of the things that we're trying to do and work with, and a couple of the projects that are in the near future.
Well, guys, Sergeant Alexander, first of all, thank you. We couldn't do what we do if it wasn't for you guys. I miss you guys every single day that I'm not in that profession anymore, but I don't envy you anymore. It's a profession that is thankless, and what you're doing is going to make a huge difference, and we appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Brian.
No problem. All right, thank you, Sarah. So, guys, what I'm going to do now is this is their website right here. So I'm going to pause the webinar for just about 2.5 minutes here. All right, guys, thank you for indulging me with that. Like I said, we are doing this webinar for free, but we would really appreciate you guys supporting the Spring Hill Knights Foundation if you feel compelled to do so. So here's what we're going to listen to real quick before we get started.
Hello, everyone. Brian Jones with BTK Properties, tremendous company, by the way, is now going to take you through the 3 strategies that will help you make money, I love money, in real estate. And no one knows real estate like me. Those strategies will be wholesaling, flipping, and hard money. It's going to be huge.
I hope you guys enjoyed that. I had a lot of fun getting a guy to do that. He recently cut another bit for me for an advertisement I ran, and it was pretty cool. So, of course, guys, with any investment strategy, there comes risk. So we have to play this real quick because hashtag attorneys. All right, guys. Sorry about that. I just don't want you guys trying to sue me later on down the road if I give you advice to get you in hot water because you made a dumb decision. I don't want to do that. All investment involves risk. I've had some that turned out not so good, others that turned out to give me a wire for $77,000 in the bank. So, everything involves risk. More risk, most of the time, more reward, as long as you have done your due diligence. So let's get started to the meat and potatoes of it. So, who am I and why am I talking to you today? I was born and raised in Dyersburg, Tennessee. In this trailer park. This was called Christie's Trailer Park. You actually can see the home that I grew up in right here. Yeah, so that place has been demolished now. 2 Christmases ago, I took an aerial drone that I bought and took this photo once I made my first $100,000 in a year, and just wanted to kind of remember where I come from and always have a picture to remember it by. Average income of a household in Dyersburg is $34,000. Just to put that in perspective, I made more than 10 times that this year. So what I'm about to show you are things not only that I believe will work, but ones that I know will work based upon my past experience. So I was raised by my mother, who worked countless hours to provide me and my brothers everything that we needed. Notice that I put needed there. She did her best, and we never went without things we needed, but we didn't have a whole lot of luxury. Never went on a family vacation that I can remember. I strive to provide my son with a work ethic like she provided to me, and be able to financially provide a little bit more than what I had growing up. So hopefully this will help you guys do the same. So this is my wife, my son, and I. We moved here to Nashville in 2010, graduated from MTSU with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and business, married my high school sweetheart, Tiffany, which is pictured there on the right, and then we had our little son, Callan, who's there in the middle. I'm a realtor, I'm an investor, a wholesaler, and all-around real estate badass. I threw that last part in there. All right, so what is real estate investing? There's 3 keywords that I want you guys to focus on as we're going through this presentation. Those are operating, investing, and financial. So real estate investing is a broad category of operating, investing, and financial activities centered around making money from tangible property or cash flows somehow tied to a tangible property. So again, the 3 keywords that you're going to see throughout this presentation are going to be operating, investing, and financial. So keep those in mind. Write those down if you're taking any type of notes. Okay, so how much money do you need to get started in real estate investing? Well, there are several strategies. We're going to go over some that you may need 1,000, or you need 150,000. Well, let's go through these. For operating, there are strategies in the operating category of real estate investing that I'm going to teach you here tonight, where you will need 0 money to do it, none at all. And when I say making good money doing this, I'm not exaggerating at all when I say you can do some of these and make $10,000 per transaction. And I'm going to show you here in just a few minutes how I've done that in 2019, where I put no money in and I made $10,000 or more. Sometimes it's not 10,000, sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's 2,000, but I don't know about you guys, but 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, every bit of it makes a difference in my bank account. Investing is going to be the second category we're going to talk about. I consider this active investing. You're going to need roughly $15,000 to $20,000 to get started with this. This is the vast majority of what I do right now, and we'll go over what these categories are here in just a few minutes. And then the last one, who we will have a guest speaker on today, will be investing and financial. So financial, you're going to need at least, $100,000 to get started doing this. You're really going to want access to a lot more than that, as Justin, one of our presenters here in just a few minutes, will go over with you guys. So we're going to start on the reverse order of what we just went through. We're going to go with what you need to have, what strategies you need to have the most money, and then which ones you need the least. So starting out, you're going to need a hard money lender. So hard money lenders is one way to do the financial strategy of real estate investing. Well, what is a hard money lender? A hard money lender is somebody who has access to capital, who lends you their capital at a higher percentage than a traditional bank would. But you don't go through the normal red tape of a traditional bank. Those would they would give you, let's say, 90% of a purchase or 100% of a purchase, and then you would come up with the remaining amount. Another way you can be a financial investor would be to do turnkey rentals. So if you find a rehabber, such as myself, who flips properties, or you want to invest in new construction, you can buy what are called turnkey rentals, where it's either new construction or completely renovated. There's nothing wrong with the property. Everything's been updated, and you literally turn the key and then you put it on the MLS to get it rented out. It's kind of self-explanatory, right? And then the last one is real estate investing funds. So one of my mentors, though I've never met him, is Grant Cardone, and he owns a company called Cardone Capital. And so what he does is he pulls investors' resources or money. Resources are exchangeable with money. You'll hear that lingo, in the investing world. They're both the same thing. Grant Cardone pulls other people's money, OPM, other people's money, and into a large fund, and then he makes large real estate purchase transactions. And upon making those transactions, each one of the investors get a dividend, or they will get a payout every quarter of a certain percentage that is set on the front end. So it's a really good way to invest if you have a lot of funds you want to put in something, or you want to be completely hands off. Okay. So what I would like to do now is introduce our first guest speaker. He is actually a hard money lender. He's actually the hard money lender that I've used on every single flip that I've done. And I know a lot of you guys have seen the properties that I've flipped over the last year and a half. His name is Justin Carpenter, and I am going to get him unmuted, hopefully a little bit easier this time, and we're going to get him to say a few things. Justin, you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can.
Good. Good. Well, Brian, thank you. Thank you for turning the floor over to me for a moment, and thank you for the forum here this evening. I wanted to spend a couple minutes talking to your group here about the role I've played with projects you brought to my attention, projects we've been able to fund for you over the last 14 to 16 months. It was the end of 2018 when we first met. Brian was a guy who has never done a deal prior. Came to me with a little bit of capital to deploy, and an uncanny knack for finding really good deals. Fast forward through the first half dozen or so of his transactions, and so far so good. I think we've been able to play a role that has allowed him to undertake more than one project at a time when he's so chosen. We've supported him in getting deals closed quickly, which is more often than not the part that secures this deal on his behalf. If he can promise that seller a closing that occurs within a week, there's a pretty good chance the guy next to him making an offer isn't going to be able to promise the same thing, let alone deliver. We've been able to support him in that on a handful of occasions. We've been able to allow him to leverage his funds into, like I alluded to a moment ago, multiple projects along the way, but really ratchet up his activity. I think from 0 deals through what he's already explained to us was a very profitable year for him last year.
Well, Justin, I want to go back to what you said a few seconds ago about how quickly you guys are able to adapt and overcome obstacles that I throw in your way. Guys, just to put this in perspective, I found a property on the MLS this morning that was well priced, made an offer $35,000 below asking, and they accepted it after a little bit of negotiating. And I called Justin and I said, I need to close this within 5 days. That's how I was able to get them to accept this $35,000 off of this price. And he said, we'll get it done. So next Friday, we're going to be closing this deal on a new flip for us. And it's 100% thanks to Justin. He is by far and away been the most valuable asset to my flipping career. He's him and my contractor, Alex Carrasco. So they're both equally just as important, but they have both been the two factors in my success when it comes to real estate flipping. Please continue, Justin.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you. And so, yeah, with that as the introduction, what I do, the role we play in this, I manage a private mortgage fund. We specialize in investment lending. We lend commercially and residentially. We do single family and multifamily, but our bread and butter are the types of deals that Brian has been bringing to us for more than a year. Our portfolio, we lend in Texas and Tennessee. Our portfolio, while we're not the largest company out there, it's a $60 million mortgage fund. And so there's plenty of money for when you do call me up on a Friday morning and need a closing to occur within 5 business days. I can make those commitments to you. I can deliver on those types of commitments. And that's the level of responsiveness that's allowed us to carve out a nice niche for ourselves in this community. We are collateral based in terms of our loan decisions, our approvals. Alluding to Brian's introduction and the lead-in he gave earlier, if you have a little bit of cash ready to deploy in this business, I can likely help you with the loan. I have no experience requirement. I have no credit minimum. I really don't have alternate A or alternate B, financing programs. It's more one size fits all. If there's equity in the deal and you have some cash available, we can get a loan, set of loan terms approved for you. The slide that's in front of you now kind of gives you a breakdown of the programs we offer, but it's cost effective relative to other hard money that's out there. If you're comparing us to a rate of return, an investment you might choose to go at in all cash, that's a nice luxury, but for most people, that's not the option on the table. For a lot of people, we are a means to an end. And and Brian was kind enough to mention the rate, the term for the return you get, for the level of responsiveness you get, for the ease of use. I think we earn the money that we make in these deals. And if you are comparing this to other hard money, it is as cost effective as anything in the marketplace right now. We are dedicated to getting these deals approved for you, closed for you as quickly as we need to support. And in some of the extreme cases Brian has described to you, we're happy to conduct these closings within a matter of days. I'm happy to give you a same day answer when you hit me up at 9:30 on a Friday morning and ask me for a set of loan terms. I think it was 30 minutes. I had a loan commitment to Brian this morning. And
it was.
That's the realm that we play in. Yeah, that's the realm that we play in, and what I have to deliver in order to win your business and keep your business through the one deal to the next. Our loan term, it's a flexible term. I offer a year to repay. A lot of people will elect to do these deals. They're at it to fix and flip. Others they purchase it to refinance and put on permanent terms and a long-term mortgage. If I'm paid off through sale, paid off through a refinance within a year, it's all the same to us. I mentioned to you the underwriting on these deals is simple. It's collateral based. If the numbers of the deal make sense, if you have some capital to deploy, usually I'm lending between 90 and 95% of the purchase price. Usually I'm lending somewhere around 80 or 90% of the rehab budget. Mm-hmm. What falls outside of that loan amount that we set, That's going to be the responsibility of the borrower. If that means a 10% down payment, that's going to be the cash that you contribute to the deal in addition to the payments monthly post-closing. But we look at each of these deals. I give you that information right away. I let you know that, hey, this is what we can lend. This will be the cash required on your end. And, depending on what we have to hit as a closing deadline, we're well equipped to do that. I can lend to individuals. I can lend to co-borrowers. I can lend to registered entities, even self-directed retirement accounts. If you have those set up in advance, I can make that my borrower. We're very flexible in that regard. We're very flexible with regard to what we will lend on, whether it's single family, multifamily, commercial, residential. I'd invite each of you to reach out to me directly. My contact information is at the bottom of the slide here. The easiest way to start with one of these is with a loan scenario we can dissect, use it as a live example. Again, I'm here to put these deals together one after the next. So feel free to use me as a resource, and I'll stick around for the Q&A at the end of this presentation.
Well, Justin, I want to hit on one thing you said a second ago, which is that you look at the deal and make sure that it makes sense. You guys are extremely valuable, not only for the financial aspect of it, but also being a second pair or maybe third pair of eyes for this deal. Maybe I missed a few numbers that really make the deal not make sense. Well, you guys aren't going to lend that money to me if it doesn't make sense. So, whether I have $100,000 or $200,000 or $1,000 in the bank, I'm most likely, my mindset has always been, why leverage my own money when I can leverage OPM, other people's money? So as long as you will allow me to take from you, I'm going to continue to take, my friend. And I just wanted to call out how valuable of an asset you are, not only for the money, but because, again, you've been doing this longer than I have. So you look at the deal. If it doesn't make sense, you're going to tell me, hey, Brian, you're missing something here. This doesn't make sense.
And that's a large part of what we do. The risk that we bear in these transactions it is the major share. We do have more money committed to it than the borrower does in 9 out of 10 transactions, or 90 out of 100 for that matter. But that's part of how we justify the money too. The money that we make in these, part of it is attributable to the expertise that we bring to the table. I don't want to park my money in a loser, and so I'm going to give you that feedback on the front end that tells you, hey, I'm looking at this more cautiously than you are, or I'm all in. Let's make this happen. And that's certainly part of the role we play, is to lend that opinion, take it for what it's worth. It's worked out so well for me, but yeah. As we go, you'll hear an unfiltered view of what the deal looks like from my perspective, what we're willing to commit to it, and certainly our level of enthusiasm for it as you go.
Absolutely. Well, Justin, thank you. I'm really excited you'll be staying around for the Q&A. So I'm going to go ahead and get you muted here, and we're going to continue on. I appreciate you, sir.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is going to be the investing strategy. This is going to be one where you're going to need about $15,000 to $20,000 to invest. This is the portion of the program where I heavily am involved. This is where Justin was just talking about doing fix and flips. Well, this is it. This is where you have enough money to call Justin and say, hey, I have $15,000. I found a property that's, this is not unheard of. I've bought several in the last few months. I found a property in West Tennessee for $25,000. It needs a $10,000 rehab. So I'm going to be all in it at $35,000. But I only have $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000 to put down. Can you fund this? And so you have to have some money, some skin in the game to start doing fix and flips. You can use OPM, other people's money, but you are going to have to come up with around 10% is generally what I've found that it averages for me of that purchase. So, we're going to go over strategy here in a moment to get up to accumulate that 10% or that $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. But this is where you will be spending the majority of your time and where it's most profitable, in my opinion. Well, let me back up. Maybe not most profitable, because there's more risk here for sure. But fix and flips is where I've made the chunks of my money. So I've made transactions, or I've done transactions where I've made $10,000 or maybe $2,000 per transaction. But on one of my fix and flips, I've made 77, I've made 49, I've made 56. The numbers just keep going on. So that's fix and flip is where, once you get established and have a good base of money to start with, is where you're probably going to spend the majority of your time. The quick flip scenario is the Zillow or Open Door strategy, where they go in and they find properties that really should be listed on the MLS, the multiple listing service, or with a real estate agent or realtor. And then they buy the property and then they resell it for just a small margin of profit on the top, maybe 5 to 11%. And so what you'll see with those is there's really not going to be much that you're going to deal with in investing, simply because there's a report out that Zillow is losing $100,000 per house that they buy. They're doing that because they're already starting to become the go-to source, the go-to website for searching for real estate. They want to be the go-to source for buying real estate and selling real estate. So they're trying to absorb those losses right now in hopes that later on it will pay off. I don't know about you, but I don't have $100,000 to give out on every purchase that I make. So that's probably not something you're going to really focus on too much. There is money to be made there, but you got to buy very smart. And that leads me to another point, and then we'll go to double closing, is that you don't make your money when you sell the property, right? You make the money when you buy the property. You can't make the after rehab value go higher because you hope it's going to go higher. You have to buy the property low enough to where there's a big enough spread to where you can still do your renovations and then sell it for whatever the market is dictating it should sell on the back end. So don't try, if you find a property and you think it's a good deal, but then you run the numbers and the numbers just don't make sense, don't try to get creative on the purchase side, because when you do, that's where you're going to end up messing up and losing money. So we're going to go on now to double closing. So double closing is a wholesale strategy. Wholesaling, we're going to go over here in just a second, because it doesn't require any money to get started with it, but the double closing does. So what a double closing is you would find an intermittent funder, or somebody who will give you funding for a certain amount of days. Generally, it's 1 to 5 days. And what they'll do is you'll find a house, you'll put it under contract, then you'll find a buyer who wants to buy that house from you. You will go all the way to the closing table. You will sign the documents having the ownership transferred to you, and then immediately, same day, you would transfer that ownership to the buyer that you found for the property, and you would sell it to them at a higher amount than what you paid for it, creating a spread, which is your profit. So that takes money. I mean, it's no different than a fix and flip, except for you're not fixing it up at all. You're buying a property that is either in good condition or not good condition. It could be either one. If it's in good condition, you're most likely going to sell it to a consumer, right, who wants a property, that's maybe on the lower end of the price spectrum. And then you're going to close the same day with your end buyer the day you buy it from the seller. If it's a property that is not in good condition, you're probably going to be selling that to an investor. And that investor is going to close the same day and then start rehabbing it from there. So you just got to find a property that gives you enough spread to be able to take a little bit off the top when you go to sell it the second time, and that is called the double closing. So one strategy with fix and flipping is what's called the BRRRR strategy. It's buy, renovate, refinance, and repeat. And so that's a strategy that I've adopted, where I'm going in and buying a property and flipping them. I'm keeping 50%, I'm selling 50% of the properties that I buy, and then I'm keeping the other ones as a rental. The next guy I want to introduce has quite a few rentals. He's a friend of mine that I met. I actually was trying to buy a property from him, but the numbers just didn't make sense. We got to talking and hit it off, and he has quite a few rentals. And so anyway, his name is Thomas Reeves, and I'm going to go ahead. He's here in the Murray County area. I'm going to go ahead and get him on the call, and then we are going to let him explain a little bit about flipping and holding for rentals. Thomas?
I'm here.
All right, buddy, you are live. So I will let you have the floor.
Yeah, so a lot of what I do, I have the hard money lifters. My guys happen to be airline pilots. And I currently have, don't currently anymore. I currently have 24 of my 94 properties under contract to be resold. A lot of what we do is a short-term flip and hold. We will buy a property. We bought this last batch. We just purchased 27 down in Pulaski. And knowing that they needed quite a bit of work. Now, what we've done is went in there and got them to where the rent rolls are supporting the payments on them, making the mortgage, making the insurance, making all the payments and everything. And then we're using the money as it comes in to continue the repairs, to continue to improve those properties. That's what my father did for 30 plus years of his career as a general contractor and home builder. He would build 3 or 4 houses and keep the 5th one that he built as a rental property. And we actually still have some of those in our portfolio. That's a lot of what we do is flipping these homes. We do more of the rental approach. Let the tenant make the payment. Let the tenants fund it, let them make the payments for it. It sits there, it appreciates in value. Then we turn around and sell them in the end. When we sell them in the end, they've grown considerably. Some of these properties we've had as short as 12, 13 months, and we're doubling our money on. Some of these properties we've had 15, 20 years. But we intentionally keep our rent roll low, so we're not paying a lot of taxes on the money we're generating. We keep everything paid for, and that's what we do.
Well, Thomas, I mean, you and I, we're gonna work on a deal down together in Murray County, and you know, you had a portfolio of how many rentals were you trying to sell at that time?
My first list that came out had a total of 94 doors on it.
Yeah, and the total value of those doors, do you remember what that was? If you sold them all together, do you remember what the total value was?
$7.5 million.
See, guys, this is somebody who, you know, I'm not even close to where he's at right now. We all aspire to be there, right? So our goal is, let me back up. Thomas, what was the monthly rent roll that was coming in off of those properties?
Our rent roll, again, we keep our rents very low. We target $100 a door. That's all we want to make is $100 a door after the mortgage payment is made, insurance is paid, taxes are paid, $100 a door. We were generating at our rent rolls a little over $60,000 a month coming out of that. I was able to support myself, my office assistant, as well as a full-time maintenance man to take care of all of that out of those funds. Market value on those, if we had put them at the same rate that our competitors were putting them out there, it would have been closer to $100,000 a month.
So that's kind of my point, right? You had over $7 million worth of assets that you could sell off. So $7 million worth of property, plus you were getting $60,000 a month in rent.
That's correct.
So guys, this is the ultimate goal, right? Our ultimate goal is to, at some point in our life, not have to keep working. That $60,000 he was getting per month on those properties will be there in perpetuity. Now, of course, some of those will have to be repaired over time, and you know, you'll have capital expenditures and things like that you have to take care of, like the roof, the HVAC. But regardless, that $60,000 is enough to cover your lifestyle, probably for most of you guys, your entire family's lifestyle, if you're talking about $60,000 per month. And so, and also in the back end, you have those tenants paying off your mortgage. So you're pulling a mortgage on these properties again. You're only cash flowing 100, 200 per property. But as that's happening, that money you pulled out to go buy another property, those tenants are paying down that mortgage. And then if you keep that property long enough, because most of those loans are 10-year terms, you're going to have that rental paid off in 10 years, and you were able to free up that capital to go buy another property. So Thomas, is there anything I'm missing? Is there anything you want to add in before we move on?
I've got a message here from one of our viewers here watching this. What was the average rent payment per property? We intentionally keep our properties under $1,000 a month. The reason for that is $1,000 a month is very doable for most tenants. My average tenant has been in place over 7 years. I have one that has been in place for 17 years. I have another that's been in place for 14 years. They've paid those houses off for me twice. Yeah, that's been a wonderful part of it. The other side of owning all of this, I talk about my hard money lenders, my investors. Their big reason for being into this is they make phenomenal money at their day job.
Oh, yeah.
They make great money, and they were paying ridiculous amounts in taxes. So when I brought them in to be my hard money lenders, they were both paying $400,000 each in taxes to the IRS the first year before they came to me. Within the first year, we dropped that to $100,000 each. And within the third year, we've now dropped that below $10,000 annually.
And that's because it's an investment for them, right? They can write a lot of that off, and that does not.
That's right.
Okay.
Because we're not generating a high rent roll, we're covering all of our expenses. I'm making an excellent living out of it and have that passive income for me and my family, supporting my employees and staff. I'm able to do everything I want to. They're not claiming all of that, but they do get to deduct all the depreciation. They do get to deduct all the repairs that are done to it, which we do in-house for most of our repairs. But even the ones that we sub out are easily put on there.
Right.
The tax advantages to it, when you're looking at buying and doing with rental properties and holding them for any period of time, you have to know and understand the tax advantages to get the true value of what you're really getting into.
That's absolutely right. A lot of real estate investing is just trying to defer your tax liability and lessen it as much as you can, because in this industry, you get raked over the coals with taxes.
That's absolutely true. No, Ken, I do not do rent to own for my long-term tenants. I actually got my real estate license back in May of 19 for the express purpose of selling these properties. And in May, I sent a letter to all of my tenants giving them the opportunity to purchase. So far, I've had 3 tenants that were able to purchase the property. I don't want to be rude about it, but frankly, long-term tenants are long-term for a reason.
Right. Well,
they're not putting the effort in to get ready to purchase.
Yes, that's absolutely right. Now, I will say though, Ken, don't rule that out, because I'll give you a perfect scenario here. I had a property that was going to rent for $2,000 a month. I had somebody approach me. They wanted to do an owner financing situation. I had paid about $314,000 for the home. I sold it to them for $365,000 and did owner financing. So I charged them $2,000 a month when my mortgage payment on that property was only $1,700. And then I also, on top of that, required a 10% down payment. So I got a $36,000 check up front that was free and clear for me, because that was essentially my equity in the house anyway. And then they continue to pay me $2,000 a month until they refinance it out of my name into their own. And if they don't do that within 3 years, well, guess what? They've missed their window to purchase that property, and then I can do it again with somebody else. Or they can give me another 10% and retry to buy the property again within the next 3 years. So that is actually a very smart question and a very good strategy for making a ton of money in real estate. So Thomas, anything else to add before we move on?
I'll be here till the end of the program. I'll be happy to answer questions. I'll be happy to put my phone number and contact information in the group chat if anybody has questions for me. I'll do that at the end of the presentation. So if y'all have anything you want to know from me, then I'll be happy to share my experiences.
Thank you very much, Thomas. I will talk to you in just a minute.
Thanks.
Okay, guys. This is the one I know every single one of you guys are here for, which is the one that requires zero money to get started. So the very first way that you can make money and in real estate investing and not have any dog in the fight is by bird dogging. And what that is simply finding sellers who have a house that they want to sell, but they have not contacted an agent yet, getting them to agree to to talk to your quote unquote investor, which would be me or any other cash buyer that you might know, and then giving that cash buyer the lead saying, hey, I've got property A for you. This is the person's name and phone number. They want to talk to you about selling their house. And generally what will happen in a scenario like that, if it's an investment situation and we're going to buy it as a flip or a rental, we can pay you a bird dog fee or a finder's fee. And generally those range somewhere between $1,000 to $2,000. I know $1,000 to $2,000 is nothing compared to, the 10, 15, 20, 77,000 you can make on some of these. But what it does is it allows you to build up your reserves to be able to start doing those fix and flips. And then eventually when you do those fix and flips, that allows you to move on to what Justin does, which is hard money lending. So the last thing I want to talk to you guys about is wholesaling. And so if you think about wholesaling a product, what happens, right? You're the middleman. You find something that is worth value, you get it at a discount, then you sell it to somebody else who finds a little bit more value in that property than what you paid for it. And so the best thing about wholesaling is that you do not have to be a real estate agent to do this. Essentially what you're doing is you are putting an offer in on a home that you believe is below market value. Then you are taking that contract that you have on that home and you're going to sell it to another investor. So you're not selling the property to another investor, you're selling the contract or the rights to the contract. And so that is a way that I've made about $45,000 last year. I'm going to be completely transparent with you guys. I just took a class middle of last year on wholesaling. Didn't really know anything about it until middle of last year. I think I did a little more than half a dozen of those last year, but I still made 45 grand doing it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you kind of how those transactions look. And it looks like somebody, okay. How those transactions look, and then we are going to move on from there. So I'm going to click on this. So I've taken away the property addresses here because I don't want you guys knowing what my turf is. I don't want you knowing where I am investing because I've already burned myself several times that way. So you'll see here, these are 13 deals that I did this year. This is not all of them. This is either wholesales or flips or one subject to, which is a nugget we're not going to touch on today. I'll kind of briefly go over it, but we're not going to get into a lot of detail on it. So I want to show you my wholesale deals that I have here. So here's one here that I sold to HHK Investments. I purchased the property for $115,000, right? And then I assigned it for $122,000. So as you can see here, my net profit on that was $7 grand. I held the contract on that house for less than 24 hours. I found an investor who wanted to buy it from me at 122. I had it under contract for 155. So I assigned it to him for a $7,000 profit. So as you guys can see here, I've done several of them. Here's one that I bought 2 adjoining properties here. As you can see what I paid here. And then if you keep going, we will see what my assignment fees were. So I made $10,000 for each one, or $5,000 each, or $10,000 total for those 2 properties. So if you add all of these wholesale deals up that I did, if you'll see here, the last one I did was the best one I had all year, which was this wholesale deal for $10,000. So I purchased the property at $55,000 and I resold it for $65,000, netting a $10,000 profit. So this year alone, I made $44,000 in wholesaling. So it is a very valuable strategy to be able to quickly gain a war chest to where you can go out and start doing your fix and flips. I don't know if you noticed the dates on those transactions, but I just started doing them in July. And I really didn't hit them that hard because my focus was on all my flips. But since July, I made 45 grand in simply just doing wholesale transactions. And if you guys want to see what I've made in flipping, the number is right next to it here. So I'm transparent about what I make, and the reason I am is because I had a buddy of mine when I first got into real estate who showed me his tax returns for the year prior to me getting into real estate, and it lit a fire under my ass. It really did. It lit a fire under me, and it made me really try to learn everything I could about real estate, and that's how I've ended up where I'm at today. So we are done with this spreadsheet. So one other thing before I move on that I want to talk about, as you can see, I have a spreadsheet for this. I have a spreadsheet for everything. And so this is a free training. Maybe one point down the road, I package all my spreadsheets up and I sell them to investors who need to know how to track all this stuff. But track it. I don't care if it's on a piece of paper. I don't care if it's on a whiteboard. I don't care if it's in a notebook. I don't care if it's on an Excel spreadsheet. Please track what you are doing, because if you don't, you cannot figure out what's working and what's not and repeat what your successes are. Okay. So I mentioned one here, which was a subject to. I didn't touch on it very much, but look, before I get into gap funding, long story short, there is a strategy out there where you can buy or purchase a property or get a property for $0. And I did do that once this year, and it's turned out very well for me. Long and short of it is, I found a guy who wanted to just sign his mortgage over to me. He keeps full responsibility for the mortgage, but I take possession of the property. So essentially, he's liable for the loan. I get the property free and clear. It does have a mortgage attached to it, but that is his responsibility. Now, under our agreement, I did agree to make those monthly payments. And so what I did was I took the property from him for free. I put a renter in for $300 more than what his mortgage payment was. And I am now making $300 a month off that property, spent zero money to get it from him, and then also inherited his $65,000 in equity that he had. So this renter is going to be in there for the next 2, 3, 5 years on his mortgage. I'm going to continue to pay off as I get the rent check in every month. And then when I pay that property off or refinance it or sell it in a few years, that property frees up his credit so he can go buy another house again. But it also, I get to keep 100% of the profit from it, and I've gained $300 a month from it. So that is a strategy that is a little bit beyond 101. So we can go into that maybe on a later date, but I just wanted to throw that out there, that there is another way where you can actually get property free and clear. All right, so this is Johnny and Gloria Michael, and I see that Johnny's actually on the phone, which is really cool. So we'll have him talk here in just a second, hopefully, if it's working on his side. So I just recently started using what are called gap funders, and they were my most recent gap funder. And what a gap funder is it's somebody who has maybe $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 ready to invest, but they do not have the knowledge in construction or the crew, or they don't really want to be involved and have all their money at risk or be tied up with a hard money loan. They just want to make a little bit of money every 20 days or 30 days or 45 days. So what we did here for them was they funded a project, 100 Green Lake Drive, for us. They gave us $20,003.50, which was the portion that Justin Carpenter, my hard money lender, did not cover. And then 47 days later, Johnny and Gloria received their original investment back of $20,003.50 plus 20%. So you can see both checks there. We do separate them. So you see that you got your original investment back plus your 20% cut. So basically, long and short of it was they let me hold their money for 47 days and then made an additional $4,000. So that's a little less than $3,000 a month. I don't know about you, but another $3,000 a month would really help my finances. So if you guys do have, this is a big push for me. This is actually, if I'm being 100% transparent, this is why I wanted to do this webinar, because I know I have people in my life who have the ability to fund some of these projects, but maybe don't have the tools in place or the resources or the people in place to be able to actually take a project from beginning to end. So if you are interested in becoming a gap funder for me, I'll have my information at the end of the presentation. You would always get a 20% return on your investment, and we generally are able to return your money within 60 to 90 days. So if you have 20,000 invested, you'll get 4,000 back generally within 60 to 90 days. plus your initial deposit or investment of $20,000. So that's my pitch on that. I am looking for more gap funders. I have about half a dozen, but my goal this year is very aggressive and I need more. So if you guys are interested and have a little bit of money to spare and want to make that money work for you, then I am here to solve that need. And so guys, we have now come to the question and answer portion. So before I unmute everybody, please make sure there's no music playing, there's no background noise, there's no dogs barking or none of that. I'm going to unmute everybody. Everybody's going to be on the call. There's 25 people here right now. And I want to make sure that everybody has the chance to ask any questions they may have. So I'm going to start going down the list here. Again, please make sure there's no background noise and bear with me just a few moments while I do this. And if you will, maybe mute your phone until you have a question. All right, before we get started with the question and answer, Johnny, I see you're on here. I'm going to back up to the previous page, and then I want you to talk about your gap funding experience, if you don't mind.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, it's been a blessing to Gloria and I. We had some savings we had over the years. We're 74-year-old, and I didn't want to get out and flip any houses or anything, but I've got a grandson-in-law that is good, and he's a great realtor, and he come up with this project, and it's just been a blessing to us. We made $4,000 there in 3 months on just a $20,000 investment, and I look forward to doing more this next year or this year.
Yep. So we actually have a project that he's about to fund again within the next 5 days, the one that Justin and I talked about earlier. So I know he said 3 months, and yes, we generally get it back within 3 months, but the last project he funded, actually he got the check within 47 days. So guys, it's a valuable tool. And it's one that I didn't put together until I was about 5 projects in. And then I was like, wait, there has to be a better way to do this instead of me putting out $20,000 every 3 months or every 30 days, because we're burning them every 35 days right now. There has to be a better way. So I came up with the idea of gap funding from, I don't even remember who I heard it from. And then that's kind of how I've funded every deal since then. So Johnny, we really appreciate what you being involved. We really do. I know it's been a blessing to you guys, but it's a blessing to us too, because it allows me to take opportunities that maybe I didn't have have access to in the past, because all my capital was tied up in all these flips. So
thank you for what you're doing. It's been a blessing to us.
Well, thank you, sir. So Ben, I saw your question in the chat. The answer to your question is yes. So all of my gap funding occurs when I do have a hard money loan out. So Justin will fund generally 90% of what I need, and then I will have somebody else cover the 10% gap. So let me make sure that you are unmuted here. You are not. Okay. So yeah, so it is definitely a benefit, and I don't know what's going on. It looks like it may have muted everybody else. So if you can't hear me, I apologize. Yeah, so it is definitely one of those situations where you would use the gap funder through and also a hard money lender in conjunction with one another. So, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and start the timer for the question and answer session. If for some reason you can't get through or we can't hear you, just type your question in the chat and we will answer it. But if you have any questions, guys, go ahead and talk, and we'll see if we can hear everybody.
Brian, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, so my question would be, where do you go about looking for your gap funders at? Down here in Texas, I'm not really. I guess this audience here is mostly Tennessee based, but if not knowing anybody down here as far as gap funders go, where would you start with?
So what I would do, Philip, and that's a very good question, is as I mentioned a while ago, I'm not trying to hide it. The reason I'm doing this is, number one, I've been asked over and over and over to meet with people to talk to them about real estate investing, and I don't have time to do that. But not only that, but I've also using this platform to be able to hopefully get a few more gap funders. Sorry, I had that music playing in the background. I'm trying to turn it down. I'm using this platform to do that. But the way I started was honestly, I reached out to friends and family. They don't have to be local, Philip. They can be anywhere in the country. So, I mean, I would just challenge you to say, don't just look locally, because you will miss a lot of opportunity. Like Johnny, the gentleman who just spoke, he's in West Tennessee, but he's not here. He does happen to be family. So, I mean, that is a situation where I had access to him from the beginning. But you can also go to Facebook and type in real estate investors and then the city that you live in. And so, like, we have a investment group here in Nashville called REIN, Real Estate Investors of Nashville. And so you could put a post on your local REI or real estate investing page. There's a dozen ways you can find them. You can also go to biggerpockets.com, and that is a great resource for real estate investors. There's over 100,000 investors that use that platform every single day, and you can find somebody looking to fund good deals. Once you realize in your mind that money is very easy to come by in this industry to help you fund your projects, it completely unlocks your ability. That is what stifled me for so long, to where I was only doing one project at a time. But now I've literally seen that money is everywhere, and you can get somebody like your grandfather, like Johnny there, to invest as a gap funder, and then you can find a hard money lender to fund the other 90%. There's been times I've had 4 hard money loans out with Justin at one time. And then I've had a gap funder for each one of those. And I had, I don't know, $750,000 worth of real estate held, and I had $0 invested in it.
Brian, I'll add to that. One of the best places that I find for my hard money lenders is the guys that are just making good money at their day jobs, but they're not really doing anything to put in their retirement. They might be funding a 401k at work. Here in Tennessee, we have a tremendous number of GM employees that just received $16,000 bonuses after the strike. Those are great people. If you know somebody at GM, especially the guys that are within 10 years of retirement, they've worked 10, 15 years in most cases, and they may not have done a whole lot of planning for their retirement. They've got a small nest egg, and these kind of retirements, they're great folks to be talking to about being your gap fund, about being a gap fund lending, about being your hard money lender. My guys have, they've got $500,000 in cash invested. And then they also have $3 million in loans, none of which I am responsible for.
Correct. Yep. So that is a very important point. You want to make sure that when you're doing these things, that you're limiting the amount of exposure that you personally have or your LLC has, because ultimately, unless you're very careful, the LLC falls back on you. You've got to be very careful about piercing the corporate veil, and those are things for a different conversation, but for a different day. But yeah, guys, just make sure that you monitor your risk. Like that first disclaimer that, risk is inherent with any investment. It is very true in real estate. Look at all the millionaires like Dave Ramsey who went broke because he spent too much money on real estate. It happens. So you have to be very, very careful and make sure you're not over leveraging yourself. Couple of quick questions that were thrown in the chat. If I'm new in real estate, how do I get started? Well, you don't have access to a lot of the tools that agents such as myself and Thomas have, right? So Zillow is the best place to get started. Go to your local market, type in your zip code where you want to buy, go up to the top, go to for sale by owners, and then search for sale by owners. They generally don't know the price. Generally, they ask way too much, but you can find good deals on there. They generally don't know the price of the current area. So if you can educate yourself on what property should be going for per square foot in your area, compare that to the market value of properties that are listed on the MLS by using Zillow, that is a very good place to start without being an agent and without having any additional money to invest or having to get your real estate license or anything like that. Another question that was thrown in here was, where am I getting my deals? that will be a discussion for maybe a later conversation. But number one for new investors, it would be, you know, Zillow, or as I was talking about, bird dogging and driving for dollars. Those are completely invaluable. Don't think that those don't work. Sending postcards or letters, those work. So my marketing strategy is I have somebody that I've hired full time who makes phone calls for me for 6 hours a day. And so she makes calls 6 hours a day, Wednesday through Monday. And on those days, I have a list of 3,300 names that I've found in the local market. And you can find these same names on Zillow. I just got them a little bit easier way. You can find them on Zillow, and she calls them every day asking if they have property to sell. One really good way to try to find investment properties are to find people who own rentals in your area, because sometimes renters are a pain in the ass, and people want to just get rid of a property, or they've held the property for so long that they want to pull their money out of it. And so if you call people who own rentals in your area, like Thomas, that's how he and I got into contact, because I cold called him over a property that I found that he had that was a rental that he had owned for a while. And I asked him if he would sell it. And that's when I found out he had $7 million worth of property to sell. So there's a lot of strategies out there, and we can deep dive into those later. But those are some really good starting points right there. And then, does the gap funder take a second mortgage? They absolutely do not. They are not an equity partner. No, they are not an equity partner. If you wanted to put them on the deed, you're welcome to, but I don't do that. Maybe at some point when I have somebody who has a lot of money who pushes me to do that, maybe I will. But at this point, I have not failed to return anybody's money within 90 days. So I have not found it necessary to do that. I've been able to sell people on the experiences of my previous clients. What other questions do you guys have?
Brian, I don't know if it's a question, but I'll add to your statement. You're absolutely right. Those of us that have rental properties, especially those of us that are in it for the tax advantages, we have a 7-year window. 7 years is what it takes us to depreciate a property. And really, after 5, the depreciation value is so low that it makes better sense for us to sell it and go buy something else and hold on to it for another 5 to 7 years.
Right.
Also, don't discount the real estate agents in your office or that you can pull up in front of. You know, the properties that Brian and I have worked on, that he's looked at my list, out of the 94 doors that I have, I put 12 of them on the MLS that have been found there. Because I don't want people disturbing my tenants. I don't want slow cars going by and worrying my tenants. So it's definitely worth talking to your agents about, hey, do you know somebody? A lot of times we've got those pocket deals. We know somebody that would be interested, but they're not willing to commit to a listing.
That is absolutely correct. I can't tell you. I mean, that's going back to wholesaling, right? So I can't tell you how many properties that I've came across that I've either held in my pocket or put a contract on, and then I've wholesaled it to another investor. So you can call me, or you can call Thomas, or you can call any local real estate agent in your area, preferably me or Thomas, to try to find you deals to where you can invest and get your first ball rolling. I have a guy who just bought my last one, the $10,000 one I went over with you guys a while ago. It's his first flip, but I had my contractor work up a estimate on what everything would cost to fix. I presented that to him, took all the anxiety out of the purchase. I went to closing with it. Well, I was going to go to closing with them, some come up. But anyway, I tried my best to take as much out of anxiety out of the process as I could. And that is things that like Thomas and I do for our clients and for people who are wanting first-time investors. What other questions, guys? What other questions, guys? Anything else?
Ben, no, you're not understanding correctly. $60,000 a month is my gross. That is my total rents collected. The $100 a door is my profit.
Very good distinction there. So that's the other thing, guys. Now, $100 a door, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, and Thomas can probably tell you this too. That's a slim margin because you're gonna have capital expenditures that are gonna pop up throughout the year. So if you can prevent a margin that small, they make their niche on doing on that way, and they go for the volume business, which is fantastic, and it's worked well for them. But as a first-time investor, I would strongly caution you not to find a deal that is that slim and hang your hat on it. Okay, so if you're going to buy your first rental, you want to make sure that it cash flows enough to where you can at least have a $500 reserve, which is things you can use for repairs, and then it's cash flowing at least about $250, $300 a month. That would be my recommendation for your first rental.
That or a good management company that can show you how to do all that.
Absolutely. BTK Properties. Okay, so any other questions, guys?
Hey, Brian, I have a question.
Sure.
There's a local rental agency, and they have a open, I guess, lot right next to our rental property.
Okay.
And I was wondering if there was any way that we could go to them and go along with what you were saying. I'm not exactly sure of the terminology, but take that lot from them, and because it's an empty lot, and possibly put something up there.
Yeah, I mean, you absolutely can. I mean, there's a lot of creative ways to get people to give you land or property. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, you could absolutely see if they want to sell it, would be number one, or number two, see if they'll do a lease purchase option. So I know that I mentioned earlier that's one way that I make a lot of money, and it is a good way to make money, but it's also a good way as a buyer who doesn't have a lot of capital and who doesn't have a lot of credit worthiness to be able to buy additional products. Because what you're going to, or properties, what you're going to find is at a certain level, a bank's going to stop lending to you. I'm actually probably about to hit that mark to where the bank's not going to lend to me anymore because I have too many rental properties that have mortgages on them. And so what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to start finding rental owners like Thomas who will say, okay, well, I'll tell you what, I'll sell it to you. I want 50% down, $100,000 property, so 50 grand down. I'll finance the remaining 50%, and then you have to pay it off within 5 or 10 years or whatever the note terms are. So yes, I mean, you can get as creative as you want to on these deals. Yeah, loan to value ratio. That's right.
When you're dealing with the banks, they're going to look at your loan to value and your debt to income ratios, and the availability of cash money is going to determine a whole bunch of that.
Right.
Guys like Jordan are fantastic because banks are only, the best the bank is going to do for you is an 80% loan.
And most of them only do 75% loan to value, by the way, most of them.
Right. They're really hard to deal with until you get to the size of operations that I have. You know, one of my favorite quotes from one of my mentors, Mr. Cheryl Evers. He told me, if you have to make 400,000, it's your problem. If you go on 4 million, it's their problem.
Yep, that's great.
And there's a whole lot more negotiable.
That's exactly right. I like that. Jason, to answer your question, you know, I can help you look for a deal, but it really comes down, like if I was to find a good deal, it just wouldn't make any sense for me or any other investor, right, to give you a wholesale deal and then not make any money on it. So you would find the property, and then I could walk you through the process of helping you wholesale that deal to another investor, or hell, I'll probably buy it, especially knowing the area that you're in. You're over in the Murfreesboro area if you haven't moved. So yeah, so I mean, if you find a property, I would be a cash buyer for it. And if I'm not, for whatever reason, then I can help you find a cash buyer and walk you through that entire process for sure. What else, guys? Any other questions?
Brian, being in the military, active duty military, and knowing that most of the guys around here that do sell, they're selling because they have to. Would you say bird dogging is probably the route to go initially, just to get started?
Absolutely. Bird dogging and wholesaling are the two best ways to get started, because you can find, let me back up. So bird dogging is the number one way if you have no reserves. And the reason why is because one thing you're going to quickly find out when you actually start trying to buy fix and flips is that you hate wholesalers. You're going to absolutely hate them because they lie about all their numbers because they just want to make a quick $5,000 or $10,000. I have Thomas, am I wrong?
Absolutely correct.
Okay, so what I have adopted is my philosophy is this. If I will not close on that property, if I will not write a check to close on that property to flip it or keep it, I will not put a contract on it to wholesale it. I will not do it. I have not met any other wholesaler who does that and who is of that mentality. But I don't want to go out here telling these sellers that I can sell their property and then have to go back to them 3 days later or 5 days later when I didn't find a buyer and say, hey, sorry, because of an inspection contingency, which I never had an inspection, I'm going to back out. So yeah, have a good day. That's just not who I am. So unless I will buy the property, I will not put a wholesale contract on it. Now, that leads me back into saying that yes, bird dogging is the best way to get started. That's what that girl is doing for me currently. So I'm paying her X number of dollars an hour to make those phone calls, but I'm also giving her a bonus if she sets up an appointment, and then I go on that appointment and I convert it to a purchase or I convert it to a wholesale. So absolutely, bird dogging is by far the best way to get started. And any of you guys are more than welcome to bird dog properties from me or Thomas and send them to us. And I can almost guarantee you if the numbers make sense, we'll buy them. What else, guys?
That sounds good. Thank you. I appreciate the input on that. Being as close to retirement as I am, I know a lot of guys, as far as military-wise goes, that's really close to retirement that could potentially be gap funders. I think it's more of an offline topic that maybe I need to just get in touch with you and we can discuss a little bit further.
I would love to, Philip. Yeah. I mean, I have gap funders and I'm trying to grow that list every single day. My goal this year is to hit 30 properties flipped, and there's no way I can do that without gap funders. So yes, please message me, text me, and we'll definitely talk some more. All right. Any other questions, guys? We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. One more final question. Okay. Going once, going twice.
Hey, Brian.
Yes. Yeah. Hey, Jason.
As far as the people that you're looking for to be gap investors, do you send something out to people who are looking to be new gap investors, or?
Well, that's kind of what this is. So at the end of this presentation, after this slide, actually, let me just go ahead and switch over. Here's all my contact info. I think you already have it. But you guys are more than welcome to go to the website and go to ibuytennesseehomes.com, go to the contact us, and then put in your information there. In the notes section, put in gap funding, or just send me a text, Jason, and say, hey, look, Brian, I've got this much to invest. I'd love to gap fund something for you. And so I've got a running list, and I try to keep it fair to where I just work down that list. So right now, Johnny's back up on the list again, and then I'll start working through those names again.
Okay. Sounds good.
Cool. All right, guys. Hey, I really appreciate everybody being here. If you would, please, go to my Facebook page, like it, BTK Properties, or my personal real estate one, which is just Brian Jones. That's the one where I'm actually doing all my investing stuff. If you guys know of anybody looking to buy or sell real estate, I would love for you to send them my way. If you have rentals or you plan on getting rentals, we also do property management for 10% for less than 5 properties. If you have more than 5 properties, it's 9%. And Thomas, if you have more than 20 properties, it's 8%. So guys, if you have any further questions, text message me. That's my cell phone number. You guys have a wonderful night. Thank you so much for joining me today.